Hey everyone, my name is Brandon Lopez, and as a Chicago Scholars alum, I am so excited and so proud to welcome you to Onsite 2020. Today, almost 1,000 students from across Chicago are interviewing with over 170 colleges and universities. Most of our scholars will leave today with the college acceptance and merit scholarships that will change their lives forever. As an alum of Chicago Scholars, I will never forget my on-site experience in 2012. Heading into my interviews, I was experiencing what many scholars are experiencing today, a mixture of nervousness and excitement that is hard to describe. But what I didn't realize at on-site is something that I now know. Chicago Scholars did much more than just give me the opportunity to interview at on-site. It also introduced me to a caring and supportive community made of scholars, alumni, mentors, volunteers, and all of you who are joining us here today. You're here for the same reason I am. We believe education is social justice. And with the right resources and opportunities, Chicago's young people can transform our city and our neighborhoods. As you enjoy the program today, be a part of the conversation on social media by tagging Chicago Scholars in your posts and using hashtag onsite2020. I'll be back shortly, but now let's hear from some of our scholars, alums, and partners from across the country. Welcome to Onsite 2020. We are so glad that you're here.
I'm Jessie Slobodnik, Chair of Chicago Scholars Associate Board, and I'd like to welcome you to this year's Onsite from my home office. This is Onsite 2020. I'm honored to be part of Chicago Scholars, as I too believe that education is social justice, and it's more important now than ever before to stand up and take action.
Hi, I'm Alexa, Year 2 Mentor of the Year. I'm coming to you today from my home office, and this is Onsite 2020. I'm so inspired by the hundreds of high school seniors out there today who are interviewing with top colleges and universities as part of Onsite 2020. Good luck, you got this.
Hello, I'm DeMarvin Perto, a Chicago Scholar at Wake Forest University, and I'm excited to welcome you to this year's Onsite from South Hall, my dormitory.
Hi, my name is English, a Chicago Scholar alum, class of 2018 from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign.
Hi, I'm Golda Shaberi, a Chicago Scholar alum from the Illinois Institute of Technology.
Hi, my name is Victor Luis Garcia, and I'm a Chicago Scholar attending the University of Michigan.
I'm Armani Washington, a Chicago Scholar at Howard University.
Hey guys, my name is Timothy. I'm currently a Chicago Scholar at Stanford University. I'm so excited to welcome you guys to this year's Onsite event from my dorm room at Stanford. And this is Onsite 2020.
My name is Lahana, a Chicago Scholar at Georgetown University.
Hello, my name is Sean Tukey, and I'm a Chicago Scholar welcoming you to Onsite 2020 from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign.
Hi scholars, my name is Jasenia Prado, a Chicago Scholar from St. Olaf College. I'm excited to welcome you to this year's Onsite from Northfield, Minnesota.
Hi, I'm Julian Hong, a Chicago Scholars alum from Northwestern University.
Hi, my name is Eddie, and I'm a Chicago Scholar here at Georgia State University.
Hi everyone, my name is Sylvia Love and I'm a Chicago Scholar here at Coe College. You may recognize me from the viral dancing video with Kawhi Leonard from the NBA All-Star game earlier this year. If you don't, that's fine. I'm excited to welcome you to Onsite 2020 from my dorm room. This is the next best thing.
When I think of my on-site experience, I think about how although I was very nervous and would stutter here and there, those who interviewed me were nevertheless always warm and welcoming.
Once I completed my first interview, I knew I could finish out the rest. And I did, and so will you.
I had my very first interview with Georgia State University admissions officer, and I was super nervous because it was my very first interview of the day. I was suited up, and then after my interview, I found out that I got in. And then, next steps, I was just looking at scholarships, financial aid, and how I was going to be able to commute across the country. And it all ended up working out. They were very helpful. They were working with me, and I ended up getting a full ride. So at the end of the day, I know if I can get it, you guys will probably be able to get it too. So
getting into some of the colleges the day of really helped ease my nerves, and it made me just really excited to be there in the atmosphere.
This is your time to shine. My on-site experience was an amazing opportunity as I got to really show my journey, show my experiences, show my story to these admission officers one-on-one.
Onsite was something that made me extremely nervous, but also left me without an ounce of regret. And I loved every moment of it. And it's definitely played a part in how I approach the real world and how I just grow as a young adult every day.
I will never forget how happy I was when I received my acceptance letter to Illinois Tech, and how my fellow scholars and I supported each other when we got a decision from the university. The energy in the building is something one cannot describe.
I was granted skills and opportunities that I wouldn't have got anywhere else.
It was a moment that taught me professionalism like no other throughout high school.
These were the moments that were kind of going to decide our futures, and so it was just super exciting and it was thrilling, and it's definitely nerve-wracking, but you shouldn't be nervous because it's amazing.
I'm so excited for you guys to have that equal opportunity to share your journey. So good luck to all of the scholars interviewing today, and thank you to all the supporters that made that possible.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yo, I think that's what they say in the TikTok videos. Anyway, this is Mike Strautmanis, Chief Engagement Officer at the Obama Foundation. And I'm here in my kitchen welcoming you to Onsite 2020. Look, Chicago Scholars is doing incredible work inspiring young people to fulfill their potential, seeking a college degree and moving on to bring their dreams and bring their talent to solve the problems of our time. And so welcome to Onsite 2020. I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you to Chicago Scholars. Good luck with all of your interviews today. And thank you for everyone who's made Onsite possible. It's so important that we get you, your talent, your skills into the game. And I'm grateful to Chicago Scholars working through all these challenges to make it happen. We believe in you. Do your thing, and I'll see you on the other side.
Hi, I'm Dr. Janice Jackson, CEO of Chicago Public Schools, and I'm excited to welcome you to this year's Onsite from the Internet. This is Onsite 2020. Chicago Scholars is doing some amazing work to lift up talented young leaders across the city of Chicago. I personally have fond memories of visiting this event in person, but I know that our scholars will still have an amazing experience this year. I want to say good luck to all of the scholars who are interviewing for college admissions today, and I want to thank each and every one of you that made today possible. Onsite 2020.
Good afternoon. I'm Courtney Gibson, Chair of the Chicago Scholars Board of Directors. I'm excited to welcome you to this year's Onsite from my home in Atlanta, Georgia. Today, we are gathering from all corners of Chicago and the country to celebrate our amazing scholars as they interview with more than 170 college partners, taking one step closer to being the first in their families to attend and graduate from a four-year institution. We are so proud to support these young leaders on this journey, and I'm excited that you'll have the opportunity to hear from some of them today. But we also come together to pause, reflect, and take action as advocates and ambassadors of education as social justice work. Your zip code, your skin color, your bank statement, none of these should define your life's outcomes. We believe in this wholeheartedly at Chicago Scholars, but we can't do it alone. We need you to join us in this movement, especially now. COVID-19 and racial injustice continue to widen the education gap in our country, and the economic downturn is hurting low-income families the most. Now more than ever, first-gen and low-income students need our support to find the right colleges, persist and graduate, and enter into the workforce with confidence. So as you engage with our programming today, as you hear from our talented scholars, as you reflect on what you can do to help, take action and donate several times if you feel inspired to do so. Use the donate button visible on the screen. Follow the chat feature to engage with other on-site guests and get ready to take action with us. This is Onsite 2020.
Hello, I'm Dominique Jordan Turner, CEO of Chicago Scholars, and it's also my honor to welcome you to the Onsite College and Leadership Forum Luncheon 2020. I'm coming to you today from our offices in downtown Chicago, where things these days have been a bit quieter than usual. But just because it's quiet doesn't mean it's been slow. In fact, 2020 so far has been a fast-paced, action-packed roller coaster kind of a year for all of us. So it started on a high note when we learned that Chicago Scholars have been chosen for 2 incredible awards. First, we were named one of Crane Chicago's best places to work for 2020. And then in February, with the honor to represent Team LeBron as the charity of choice in the NBA All-Star Game. What a rush. Then just as we were preparing to interview and select our current class of scholars, COVID hit. In a matter of weeks, we were forced to pivot and move what had become a signature part of our engagement in our new scholar interview nights to virtual. Thanks to so many of you who volunteered to make sure we gave our incoming students the best possible opportunity to shine as leaders in that moment. Now, at the same time, due to COVID, we were getting emergency calls night and day from scholars on college campuses all over the country who needed assistance to get home safely and find new ways to finish their academic year online. Thanks to several foundations and individual donors like you, we assisted 125 of our scholars with emergency COVID funds to persist through this really uncertain time. As the spring trudged on, it was clear that graduations would be canceled, such an important milestone for our scholars, especially for those who were first in their families to achieve it. And again, our scholars persisted. We hosted virtual graduations, celebrations, and engaged our scholars in local and national experiences, including events hosted by the mayor's office, the Obamas, and Oprah. But then May 25th brought a new level of despair to our scholars, our staff, and our nation. The murder of George Floyd and the following days, weeks, and months that brought Black Lives Matter and other incidents of racial injustice to the forefront of every heart and mind has become a constant and consistent drumbeat in everything we've done since. We reached out to check in with our scholars. We had open all-staff discussions. We took a stand that social justice, racial justice, that is the work of Chicago Scholars. We wholeheartedly believe that education is social justice. And for our Black and brown scholars and their families, this is not a new issue. But what 2020 has done is to shine a light on the systems and structures that continue to stand in their paths toward leadership, toward success. And even then, our scholars persisted. We had scholars participate in peaceful protests. They led rallies. They organized food and basic need drives in their communities. And guess what? We saw that 95% of our scholars, despite everything in their way, matriculated to their original college choice, not letting COVID or racism stand in the way of their dreams. And today, in bedrooms and at dining room tables and sometimes in bathrooms or closets all across our great city of Chicago, almost 1,000 students are finding a quiet space to get on extremely important video interviews with more than 170 college partners that we know will help change the course of their lives. Doing things online has become the class of 2025's calling card. They were interviewed online, selected online, workshops have been online. They've engaged with their mentors and college counselors. They're doing their senior year of high school, all from a computer screen. These students are our future. And let me assure you, I am hopeful for our future because of them. In fact, let's check in on some of them right now. I want to take you to our virtual celebration room where our scholars are popping in throughout the day to share their on-site experiences with one another.
To have you all here. Hi, everyone. Hello, everyone. So glad that you are here. Thank you for joining us here in the celebration room. And we are so excited. It has been a wonderful, fun-filled, jam-packed morning. And we're so thrilled that you're here with us as well. Our scholars have had an amazing experience and have talked about how their confidence has been built, how they have gained a really great experience with many colleges across the country, just right here virtually. And also how they have been able to talk about the impact that they have been making on their individual school campuses as they make sense of where they're going next. And so we're so excited to give them the opportunity to share more with you directly. And so we have several volunteers that are really looking forward to share. I'll turn it over.
Hi, I'm Melissa, and I want to study art therapy. Some schools that I've already gotten accepted to are Beloit College, the University of Tampa, and the University of Pittsburgh. All thanks to the interviews. It was really nerve-wracking, but I'm really happy.
Thank you, Melissa.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Verdon. I had the opportunity to interview with Drake and Stanford. I got accepted into Drake University with half of my tuition paid off, and I'm interested in majoring in biology. Very excited and very grateful that I was able to be a part of something this special.
Hi, my name is Julia. I got the opportunity to interview with UW-Madison this morning and Northeastern, and it was really, really nice to talk to the representatives from each school and learn more about their schools and also give them an insight into my life. And I want to major in criminal justice and psychology.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Anaya Ellis. This morning, I had the privilege of being interviewed with the University of Kansas as well as the University of St. Thomas. I was recently accepted into the University of Kansas, and my major is psychology. And I also had the privilege of sharing my personal life and accomplishments with them besides what I can bring academically. And I am excited to continue with the rest of my interviews today.
Awesome. Anyone else care to share? And I know that we had a few dollars that might have come in some way, shape, form, or fashion as well. So if folks are interested and excited to share about any scholarship money that you earned, please do feel free to share that as well. That was very exciting to hear.
Yeah, we had a student come into the celebration earlier to share that she got a great scholarship for Western Illinois University, which was amazing to see. We all gave her some high fives in the chat for that, so that was wonderful. But yeah, scholars, if you have anything that you want to share about your previous on-site experience, or just things that made you feel really proud and really kind of helped elevate your story, we'd love to hear that as well. What are some of your proud, feel-good moments of the day? All right, so we're actually going to say bye to our luncheon guests. Thank you all so much for visiting us and hearing about our celebrations and our accomplishments. It was great to have you all.
Wow, that was so exciting. It really takes me back to my on-site experience. Hi, my name is Amber Townsend. I'm a Chicago Scholar alum from the Austin community on the west side of Chicago, and I went to college at Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. Before I share my story, I'd like to share a trigger warning for the use of the N-word towards a Black youth. And now I'll share my story. The title of my story is Making Space to Talk About It. This story takes place at the beginning of my freshman year in college. I was still riding the high of having been offered a combined total of over $1 million in merit aid at Chicago Scholars Onsite my junior year, of getting into not one, but two premier merit-based programs, and of course, finally getting out of my mom's house and being the sole decision maker for when I could take naps. It was the first week on campus. This was a time that freshmen were supposed to use to move into the dorms, decorate their rooms, and to get to know the other freshmen on campus. I was excited, but nervous. Anyone who knows me knows that I can be pretty introverted and shy and generally prefer to stay to myself. So when I was invited by one of my dorm mates, Sasha, a Russian exchange student, to hang out with a group of her friends, my initial instincts were to decline her offer. No, I need to go back to my dorm, maybe take a nap. I've done a lot of talking to people today, I responded. Oh, come on, it's going to be super chill, just some friends hanging out, she said. Before I could say no again, she grabbed my hand and led me to the room across from mine. I could hear the music and felt my stomach tighten. I looked around the room and saw that there were only a few people there, so that was a relief. One of them offered me a beer. I didn't drink, but heard myself say, "Sure." As Adam reached into the cooler, Alex, the guy whose room we were in, said, "We need to go out and get Colt 45 since there's a nigger in the room." "What did you just say?" asked Adam. "I said we need to go out and get Colt 45s for the nigger in the room," Alex said again without turning around. "Dude, don't say that. What's wrong with you?" responded Adam. At that moment, I realized that not only was I the only Black person, but the only person of color in the room. Weirdly, I didn't feel embarrassed or get that familiar tightening in the pit of my stomach. I only felt the overwhelming need to get out of that space. So I turned and I left, as the rest of the folks in the room apologized on Alex's behalf and urged me to stay. My roommate, Galen, was in the dorm when I walked in. Oh no, I thought. I'm going to have to talk about this. I must have looked upset because she asked me what was wrong. I told her, and she was absolutely disgusted. She and Alex were in the same friend circle. She had let Alex and his friends hang out in our room before, so I was a little nervous when I asked her not to let him into the room anymore while I was there. What? He's not going to get within 10 feet of this place. Galen was putting on her shoes and jacket. Where are you going? I asked. To yell at him, duh. That's so wrong. Somebody needs to put him in his place, she said. No, it's cool. I'm okay. I just want to lay down for a little while, I said. Okay, well, let me know if you change your mind, she said, as she hung her jacket back up. During the months following the incident, avoiding Alex was an impossible daily challenge in our dorms, in the dining halls, anywhere on campus. Over the next few years, I'd hear little stories about instances where Alex had said something racist or posted something sexist on Facebook. He had quickly developed a reputation for himself, and it wasn't a good one. I had quickly developed a reputation for myself in the other direction as I became less shy and worked with different groups and offices on campus to help support students from marginalized backgrounds. During my junior year, I registered for a 25-person class called Racism, which was being taught by a professor who was known by students for telling it like it is. On that first day, I found a seat as the other students filed in, got settled, and opened their brand new notebooks to a fresh page. Within minutes, Professor Johnny Williams arrived and introduced himself. While talking us through the syllabus, the door creaked open, and we looked over as Alex walks into the room. My jaw dropped to the floor. Alex took a seat as the professor went on with his comments. I thought through the numerous reasons why he might be in the class and landed on the idea that he had come to the wrong classroom by accident. I peeked over at Alex every few seconds, waiting for him to realize that he'd made a mistake and get up and leave. but he stayed for the duration of the course and for every class after that. I learned through the grapevine that because he was developing such a horrible reputation on campus, Alex's friends had basically given him an ultimatum and forced him to take sociology classes in order to learn about the history behind the way that the world works. Our first assignment was to use our readings to write about the history of stereotypes and their effect and their influence from the past to the present. I was finishing up my paper around 11 p.m. when I received a Facebook message from Alex. "Hey, Amber, I hope you're well. I know we haven't had the best relationship in the past, but I'm really struggling with this paper. I keep doing the readings, but I don't really understand why the stereotypes are offensive to people." I couldn't believe it. Of all people to reach out to, Alex reached out to me for help with his paper on racism. So of course, I instantly messaged my friends, who came to a unanimous decision that I should absolutely not message Alex back. I fought with myself for a bit. Then I really thought about the bigger picture. I figured that if I helped Alex understand stereotypes and why his words were so offensive, that I could perhaps keep another person of color from experiencing what I felt when Alex called me a nigger. And maybe I could gain an ally for us. So I decided to help him. Alex and I stayed up on Facebook past midnight and talked through different stereotypes and historical events. He learned something and got a B on that paper. A few days later, in class, we went over some major historical events. We talked about the transatlantic slave trade, the history of lynchings and violence against African Americans in the United States, and the story of Emmett Till, police brutality, and a particularly violent racist incident that had happened on campus. Many of the students in class were in tears, and a lot of us were emotionally exhausted. I looked over at Alex and saw that he was slumped down in his seat with his face covered. Just as I thought the class would never end, the bell rang and jolted us out of our solemn trance. "Hey, Amber, can I talk to you for a second?" I immediately recognized the voice. "Class was intense today, huh?" Alex went on. "Yeah," I said. "Look," Alex said, "I really wanted to apologize to you. I remember what happened freshman year, and I know you remember too. I'm so sorry. I don't know what was wrong with me. I feel like I've been tricked my whole life. I can't believe I've been lied to my whole life," Alex went on. I know that feeling, I thought to myself. Alex continued, "I can't imagine how horrible that must have made you feel. I'm so sorry. I'm such a piece of shit. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry," he said. "It's good that you're taking this class," I responded, still in a daze from class. I looked up and was shocked to see that his face was cherry tomato red, and he had tears streaming down his face. "It looks like I'm going to be late to biology," I thought to myself. Alex and I eventually became friends. Throughout our time at Trinity, Alex shared stories with me about the hard conversations he had to have with his grandparents when they would use racial slurs at the dinner table. He shared about the things that he learned in his sociology courses, and I listened and watched as he went through the grieving process of learning how the world worked for people of color. It was a lesson that I'd learned the hard way, so I recognized where his cyclical anger and sadness were coming from. Alex ended up changing his major from finance to sociology so that he could learn how to be a better ally. In these last years of college, Alex and I had uncomfortable conversations. We pushed through our discomfort to turn a very ugly thing into something beautiful. Thank you. I'm now joined by some amazing guests, a few of our very own scholars and partners. Thank you all for being here. We've come together in celebration of our Onsite College and Leadership Forum and our newest class of scholars as they participate in college acceptance interviews, a key milestone on the journey. But we all know that college is not the finish line. At Chicago Scholars, we work with our students to make certain they not only graduate with a degree, but that they transition into a career where they can shine as the leaders that we know that they are. They are truly talent. Talent is what I'd like to chat about today. A few weeks back, when the CEO of Wells Fargo apologized for a June memo where he said that, and I quote, "The unfortunate reality is that there is a very limited pool of Black talent to recruit from," end quote. Now, I was surprised, but not shocked. This is far from the first time I'd heard this claim and certainly won't be the last. Mostly, I must admit, I was disappointed that in this most critical time of change, that this message about a lack of talent is still the excuse for so many. And then I was motivated to prove them wrong, because I believe that this is exactly what we have in our Chicago Scholars, an ever-growing pool of incredible Black and Brown talent to recruit from. Chicago Scholars like Bukola and Kevin and Maria are why we're here today. Kevin, let's start with you. Would you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what your reactions were when you heard that statement?
Absolutely. My name is Kevin B. Banks Jr., Chicago Scholars Class of 2018, and founder and CEO of Just the Right Amount LLC. My immediate reaction to the comments of the CEO of Wells Fargo was first, grace, I think, is needed in this time that we live in right now. There's so many things that can easily offend anyone, and just realizing that we are all human beings that make mistakes. We say things that may not be politically correct. We say things from a place of not having knowledge. And so, although I don't know him personally, I think he definitely deserves the opportunity to show that his actions mean more than his words in that particular moment. But I'm reminded also of a quote that one of my mentors told me. And he said, "People can't appreciate what they don't understand, can't understand what they don't know, and don't know what they aren't exposed to." And I think that quote really resonates with me in this particular moment, because depending on who's around the CEO of Wells Fargo, he flat out just may not be exposed to the kind of Black talent that Wells Fargo and other Fortune 500 companies need to be successful. And so it's no fault of his own in that particular respect, but it is on him and the team that he has around him to provide him those opportunities to gain exposure. So that way, that Black talent that he says doesn't exist, he now can see it with his own very eyes, because it's really right in front of his face if he opens his eyes to be able to see it for what it actually is.
What powerful insight. I'd love now to turn to Renee. Renee Gatson is a senior manager of diversity, equity, and inclusion for the Walgreens Boots Alliance, and they are a great partner of ours at Chicago Scholars. Renee, how would you respond to Kevin's remarks? And then maybe tell us a little bit about how Walgreens defines talent.
I certainly align with Kevin's remarks. When I hear any version of a statement like this, I immediately think to myself, this person is incredibly misinformed. Such statements are not only a false narrative, but such statements are degrading to the achievements and abilities of Black and Brown communities. Instead of communicating negative outlooks, leaders should be using their place of privilege and power to inspire others to have a positive outlook and amplify opportunities to cultivate a diverse and inclusive workforce. Instead of blaming the lack of diversity on groups that are traditionally oppressed, I recommend that organizational leaders point the finger inward and evaluate their company in order to answer the following questions. Why are people of color not choosing to work for your organization? Why is your organization not attracting people of color into leadership positions? Is the organization proving that it values, respects, and appreciates experiences and expertise of team members who identify as people of color? And are your organizational strategies, programs, policies, and processes equitable, accessible, and inclusive of all team members?
And what role do you think Chicago Scholars plays in that for you at Walgreens?
At Walgreens, we ask ourselves these questions frequently. In fact, diversity, equity, and inclusion is everyone's responsibility at the company. Our mission is to attract, develop, and engage colleagues and partners who reflect the diverse customers and communities that we serve and foster an inclusive culture. It is the reason we partner with Chicago Scholars. We define talent similar to other companies. Talent is individuals who possess diverse experiences, skills, knowledge, and educational backgrounds that fulfills one or more of our skills gaps and helps advance our business in the marketplace. To advance this business imperative, we have established company-wide diversity, equity, and inclusion accountability goals. We are committed to increasing the representation of women and people of color in leadership positions and ensuring that all candidate slates and interview panels have gender and racial ethnic diversity.
So Bukola, you are just starting on your journey towards career, but even in high school, you exemplified talent and leadership. And I know that that's one of the reasons why you were a great fit for Chicago Scholars. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your goals and aspirations.
Yes, of course. My name is Bukola Rinola. I graduated from South Shore International College Prep. I am now a current freshman at the George Washington University. And about a little bit of my goals and aspirations, I'm on the pre-med track, so I definitely want to go into the medical field and one day become a physician helping various of people around the world.
So Bukola, this time last year, you were in the seat of the 800 students who are interviewing today. Is that right?
Yeah.
Tell me what that was like.
Oh my goodness. I think Onsite was like one of the most like times where I had the I was really anxious. I was like, oh my goodness, what if I don't get accepted? What if I don't, I'm not good enough for this and stuff like that. A lot of that was happening in my head. But I remember my mentor, actually, Nicole Wagner, and she brought donuts. And I was like, oh my goodness, I love food. So that was kind of like what I was like, oh my goodness, like I just felt relaxed. She literally told us we were like, great, we were awesome, we were going to kill it. And that's exactly what we did. I think that day was, everybody got accepted in my cohort. A lot of scholars got accepted to their dream schools. It was just a day of joy. I feel like a lot of people dreams came true. Like a lot of people was like, yes, I can really do this, right? Not only did I get accepted to one college, but they got to 2, then they got to 3, then they got to 4, and the excitement just filled the hair. So I was just like so happy. Like that was one of the biggest, happiest day of my life.
I love that. So not only was it a room full of talent, the admissions directors in that room recognized your talent, and you were rewarded with an admission to the George Washington University. I love that. So I want to turn to Maria. I would love to hear your thoughts around talent and how you think about it when you're accepting students.
Sure. My name is Maria Chukis, and I'm a regional admissions representative for the University of Missouri. I'm also a Chicago Scholars alumna and current mentor for some scholars in the class of 2025. And I think that's a great question because talent is something that I don't think is narrowly defined. And I think that's one of the things I appreciate so much about the role that I serve is because as an admissions representative, even though things may look a little different right now, I still get the chance to interact with students on a daily basis. So I get to see what their talents are off paper. I don't need to look at a resume or a GPA to fully define a student and see what they're capable of. And that's why I'm really appreciative of organizations like Chicago Scholars because it just gives us yet another platform to get to know students and what they have to offer and what they see as their own talents.
insightful. So I'm really curious then why this myth continues to persist that there is no talent there. I'd love, Kevin and Bukola, for you to weigh in about your personal experiences and maybe what bumps have been in the way as you're on this journey to pursuing your goals and aspirations.
Absolutely. I would say for me, the biggest hindrance to myself was myself. When I joined the ranks of Chicago Scholars, I'd only had one very strong academic year in high school. Up until that point, I was a very talented student, but I lacked work ethic. And going into the Chicago Scholars experience, which, by the way, came as a result of being a part of an affiliated organization, I didn't actually apply to be a Chicago Scholar. I got in through a scholarship program. It was really recognizing the fact that everything that I wanted externally, I had to find internally first. So that desire to want to be excellent in the classroom, that desire to want to give back to my community, that intentionality when speaking to a peer and sharing resources and knowledge and information. All of those things are so important when you talk about talent and how do we bridge that gap between current generation and the next generation. And so if I had never figured that out for myself and started walking that journey out on my own at the beginning of my Chicago Scholars career, I wouldn't be the man that I am right now. And so it's very important that organizations like Chicago Scholars and others exist to help students refine themselves, help them redefine who they are, help them understand that you don't have to be perfect. The person you're going to be 5 years from now has to make those little steps each year in order to get to that point. You can't be that person now because you're not prepared for it. And so talent is everywhere, and the ability to utilize your talents to better your community, better the people around you, better the spaces that you are involved in. I think everyone should take that as a burden and a calling to be better, not to say, you know what, it's just there, somebody else will find it. We have to find it ourselves.
I love that. And I have to say that it's been a pleasure to watch your journey over the past 7 years, Kevin. Bukola, I'd love to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah. So I definitely agree with everything Kevin said. I think that it does start with you, but as you know, as a freshman and someone who was like really fresh, going into college, I felt like as a first generation student, I didn't have like those role models, those people that continuously told me that, oh, you can do it, that, oh, you can get into college. I mean, of course, my parents did, and my family did, but I didn't really have those role models, those people that I can go to and say, oh, okay, how did you apply to college? If they did go to college, that they went like in Nigeria, because I'm originally from Nigeria. So just being a Nigerian American also was kind of like that bump, like, okay, who can I actually go to? And having Chicago Scholars actually enabled me to see, okay, this is what you have to do. This is how to apply for FAFSA. This is how to do this. This is how to do that. So I think that was kind of like my biggest bump. But I am grateful that I have Chicago Scholars who really helped me through that process.
Wonderful. And we are so proud of you as well, Bukola. Okay, so what now? Today is all about pausing to reflect on what's happening around us. But most importantly, what can we do about it? And so I'd love to hear from each of you. What is one thing that you have done to overcome this issue with talent? But more importantly, what can the people watching do? What is an action that can be taken?
Sure. I would say that one thing that I've done that I would also encourage people to do is show up, to put it simply. I think that in our environment, we have a lot of opportunities where people can show up physically, but it's also about speaking up for those who aren't in those spaces where these conversations are being had. So knowing when and how to use your voice appropriately and represent people who may not have the opportunity to do so for themselves.
I love that, Mari. I don't know if you know it, but that's one of our core values at Chicago Scholars. We show up. Kevin, what are your thoughts?
I would definitely love to echo everything Maria just said. I also would challenge people from an action standpoint. Figure out what it is you want to do. Figure out what is that thing that gets you up in the morning and keeps you awake at night. That thing is where your purpose is. And I think purpose is so important when we talk about figuring out talent and overcoming myths and overcoming stereotypes, different things that may be barriers. Purpose goes through barriers in a way that other things cannot. And so I think when our students and our partners and our staff, our mentors our college and career coaches are walking in their purpose, we're all better as a result of that in this community. Chicago Scholars, the space itself that we're sitting in right now, but also the community of Chicago Scholars is better as a whole as well.
I couldn't agree with you more. Bukola, how about you?
My biggest thing would be to be open-minded. You want to see somebody for who they are, not, what their skin color is, what they identify as. You always want to see them as who they are. And that's the biggest thing. Like Maria said earlier, I think she mentioned that we have preconceived notions. And I think it's very important to let those preconceived notions go. And that would be like my biggest takeaway. Just be open-minded and see people for who they really are, their talent. What do they bring to the table? And just ask yourself that every single time you look at somebody. Let those preconceived notions go, let those stereotypes go, and just see people for who they are.
So one thing that I'm doing is persisting through the beautiful struggle, and I encourage others to do the same. I continue to challenge false narratives. I advocate using evidence, and I continue to sponsor others when they are not in the room. So I encourage everyone else to do the same. Stay persistent, stay passionate. This work can be draining, so take time for yourself. But remember that what we're advocating for, what we're pushing for together, is a beautiful thing. It is liberating, it is beautiful, and it is for the betterment of all the students at Chicago Scholars.
The last thing that I would add to that is, we also talk about allies and allyship, but I think that there's another step of moving beyond allyship to being an accomplice, right? To using your voice, your power, your privilege, and speaking on behalf of those who deserve an opportunity, just like you all here today. And so with a little bit of mentorship, coaching, sponsorship, we know that great things happen when we invest that. And so I am so excited to have this conversation with you all. I am so motivated to share this message about talent. We know that it exists in every corner of this city, but we also know that Chicago Scholars is the home of some pretty talented and amazing young people. Thank you all.
Education as social justice as a mentor means to me equity in the opportunities and access to all our students in the educational landscape. But more than that, it means teaching our scholars to use their agency and their voices to stand up to injustices wherever they see them. Probably the most challenging part of the process this year was, when COVID hit, because just switching over from the really in-person touching points that we had throughout the year and trying to mimic those in a virtual world was quite challenging. But we did that through many Zoom calls, lots of texts, and just really checking in with each other and me with my mentors. One of the most rewarding days for me was Onsite, because we had worked so hard over the summer and into the fall on their applications and getting them in on time, and just countless hours just spent really learning about themselves in order to put their best foot forward for these colleges. And to see them on Onsite come out of the meetings with an acceptance or a scholarship was just such an incredible experience. I think not only for the students, but everybody in that room. A friend of mine had asked me to do the interviews for the Chicago Scholars to get their places in the program. So I took that opportunity, and while I was sitting there interviewing these young students, their stories were just so compelling. And I left and I just knew that I needed to be a part of Chicago Scholars and helping these kids realize their dreams. Now more than ever, it's time to act. Join me as a mentor.
I first heard about Chicago Scholars after reading an article in Crain's which discussed how the organization helped kids from underserved communities get into and graduate college, and then helped them to find rewarding careers. Most of these students were the first in their families to attend college. It struck a chord with me because their stories was my story. I am a first-generation college student. Without my education and the many people who have helped me along the way, I would not be in a leadership position at a Fortune 500 company with the ability to effectuate change. I wanted to be part of Chicago Scholars' mission to provide an opportunity for kids like me to achieve their goals and become leaders who can make change happen. I love volunteering my time as a board member, but I get the most joy when I have the opportunity to work directly with our scholars through our many events. I'm fortunate that I can help provide opportunities to the scholars by having my company, Constellation Brands, participate in the Emerge Summer Internship Program. For the past 2 years, Constellation has welcomed Chicago Scholar Emerge Summer Interns to our business, which has given us access to incredible, diverse talent. What can you do to take action right now to make change? Connect your HR team with Chicago Scholars.
There are lots of reasons that someone should become a partner with Emerge. Many reasons that I didn't even think about 3 years ago when we embarked on this partnership with them. First off, this is a fantastic partnership that strives for many of the core values that Adam Street does too. Investing in students and scholars at an early point in their career, being able to provide exposure and access to professionals and industry experience that can help them develop within their field of focus. This is particularly something that I view as an invaluable experience for someone, mostly at their age, and it's incredible to see them embark on this journey. Truly a win-win for all involved. Secondly, if you're an organization that does not have sufficient level of infrastructure for an internship program, be not feared. Emerge and Chicago Scholars program is fantastic. Now, they won't do everything for you, but they are extremely helpful in helping you figure out what is the best process to implement, how to onboard the interns, what are some types of work that these interns can take on, and how can they help you in your firm? Again, trying to create that win-win situation for everyone here, you as a company, but also providing great experience and exposure to these young leaders. Please join me as an Emerge partner.
I just was so excited about today's programming, and the words that just have inspired me, the actions of our speakers. I want to make my own commitment to volunteering in my neighborhood. But I'm Brandon Lopez, a Chicago Scholar alum from the Gage Park neighborhood of Chicago. I'm also a 2018 graduate of Kalamazoo College and a new member of the Chicago Scholars Associates Board. I'm excited to join you at Onsite today, not only because I have personally benefited from this organization, but because I also believe in its vision and values so much so that I joined a board to help raise money for it. Well, as you know now, I am joined by Chicago Scholars Vice President of Partnerships, Jeff Beckham. Jeff, thank you for saving me.
Brandon, we're here to support each other. That's what we do at Chicago Scholars. And I'm really excited to be with you today and celebrate Onsite with everyone.
My pleasure. I'm really excited to be here. As you can all tell, now is the time for you to go ahead and take action with your dollars, everyone. I know you've been giving throughout the program, so thank you for your support so far. I want to encourage everyone to dig a little bit deeper, and let's see how much we can raise together to support the amazing work of Chicago Scholars and the future leaders of our city. It's through support of leaders like you and the many sponsors of today's events who are listed on the website that Chicago Scholars can impact the lives of so many like Amber, Kevin, Bukola, and thousands of others just like me.
Wonderful scholars like you all, just amazing. And to watch that video really speaks to who and what our Chicago Scholars are. Chicago Scholars are everywhere. And that's one of the amazing things about the work. We encourage our scholars to seek new experiences and opportunities and engage their superpowers as they go after their dreams. I can speak firsthand proudly about the value of fully engaging in the work of Chicago Scholars. It's been a remarkable experience for me to be part of the staff, the team who support so many young and talented people.
And now it's your turn, everyone. Go ahead and check your email. You should have received a link this morning to use the register to donate on our site. Or you can find the donate button on the main screen of the program website and make a gift right now. It's that simple.
Every $1,000 raise today will support leadership development experiences for our scholars. Look at some of the names come through: Courtney Gibson, Andrew Shortfeger, Carrie Camino, Rick Blair. Those are wonderful board members I get the opportunity to work with. Ahmed Hajmi. I mean, this is awesome.
Look at that tally. Wow. Wow. Thank you, everyone. Wow.
Yeah. Every $5,000 will support workshops and our counseling sessions for next year's first-year scholars as they prepare for Onsite. $15,000 will cover the cost of 2 selective summer internship experiences in our Emerge program, which is a phenomenal program that connects students to those job opportunities that you heard about earlier.
Wow.
Brandon,
wow, everyone.
I got a question for you. When you think back over your time as a scholar and going through this yourself, do you have any advice for our scholars today?
You know, the one piece of advice that always helped me is just to remember you got this. Remember that everyone is here to see you. The admissions counselors are excited to see you just as much as you are to see them. So use that to your advantage and remember, you got this.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you for each dollar donated. Please know that it goes towards the program and building young leaders like you've seen in Bukola and Kevin and Amber. It really is part of the work, and your investment helps us do this work at a greater capacity.
Thank you all once again. It's my honor now to toss the program over to Chicago Scholars founder, Tim Schwartzfeger, who would like to share a few words with you all.
The year was 1996. Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls won their first three-peat as world champions. Oprah started her infamous book club, and Chicago stood proudly on the world stage. Today's extraordinary demand for talent to drive mass innovation was still on the horizon. eBay was just launched, and Google didn't even exist. And our public schools were not up to world standards by any measure. For Gail and me, 1996 was the year that we expressed our commitments to educational equity by awarding a $1,000 scholarship to one graduating senior from every high school in Chicago. That was the beginning of Chicago Scholars. Now fast forward to 2020. Now we truly live in an incredible age of mass innovation. A wide range of forces now require innovation to create sustainable lifestyles for billions across the world. New business models for literally every business in the world, and new methods for all forms of interaction. Multiple forces now require innovation in education at every level, with a newfound sense of urgency to find equitable access and equitable educational outcomes across all segments of society. Fortunately, here in Chicago, we've come a long way, and we have all of the resources we need to support this incredible age of innovation. Our resources begin with an incredible array of talent and world-class public and private support for the development of that talent. Today, Chicago Scholars is part of a thriving network helping to reveal Chicago's next generation of leaders to the world. Just as at Chicago Scholars, we accept 600 to 700 new scholars each year from every Chicago community. That's a 1,200% growth from where we started, with absolutely no end of talent in sight. We have scholars attending close to 300 colleges and universities across the country. The innovations created by the thousands of scholar alums in their communities throughout Chicago and across the globe already are and will be incredible. In addition, through so much of our collective work and support, the whole world is awakening to the potential of Chicago's rising talent pipeline. Now more than $1.5 billion in college scholarships are being awarded to our public school graduates every single year. On this day alone, we will break cycles of poverty that have lasted for far too many generations, and together with our community and university partners, we will launch the leadership opportunities for almost 1,000 of our public school students. I'm so honored to have been on this journey with you over the last quarter of a century. It's also been such a pleasure to meet so many of our young leaders that live in our city in every corner of town. Of course, our work is not finished. We have new problems to solve, new barriers to break. We still have many more thousands of young men and young women with the capacity to be tomorrow's innovators and leaders. And I'm proud to say that we are up for the challenge. Chicago is once again on the cusp of standing tall on the world stage. This time for having the most robust pipeline of rising talent and the greatest talent development and talent engagement network of any city in the world, just when the world needs our talent so dearly. I hope you will continue to stay in touch over the next few months. Exciting details are coming soon about the ways you can join Chicago Scholars in our 25th anniversary year campaign, a campaign to empower all of the rising talents of our young men and women across the city. For now, make sure to save the date for October 26th, 2021. We'll be throwing a big 25th year celebration, and you won't want to miss it. Thank you so much for your belief in the young men and women of Chicago, and I'll see you next year.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you all for joining us today for Onsite 2020. We are really excited about that 25th year anniversary, and we hope you are part of that with us. Keep checking our website for updates on the number of admissions and merit scholarship numbers as they're tallied. So far, I believe we've got $13 million in merit aid, 190 plus admissions, 168 admits, and the 3,600 interviews conducted. Just think about that. Think about that. Put that in context for yourself. 3,600 interviews conducted virtually. And we couldn't do that without you. A big thanks to our sponsors who helped make the day possible. I want to make sure that we mention them, the Best Portion Foundation, who was our presenting sponsor, and our gold sponsor, West Monroe. And I want to give a special shout out to our partner, Invest for Kids, who over the last 3 years has worked with us to build the Emerge Summer Career and Leadership Program. That's something that if you're working at a company, you should definitely get them involved and connected with the Chicago Scholars, who's producing the young talent of tomorrow. As part of our on-site tradition, we track throughout the experience of how many amazing students have been part of this. And so as you look at that throughout the day, share on your social media. Use hashtag onsite20 to share with your networks. This has been an awesome day. And on behalf of the entire Chicago Scholars staff, board, our scholars everywhere, thank you for being with us today. We hope you get out there and take action, as every small act, when we put them together, add to a massive change. We will create the change we need in our world. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day. And remember, stay safe. We'll see you next year. And if you want to take action with us throughout the day, you can still text SCHOLAR to 61094 to donate throughout the day. Share this with your social media. Thank you and have a safe day.